Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher. Welcome to Sweetwater's Guitars and Gear. This time out, we are joined by Lzzy Hale from the band Halestorm.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming in.
Oh,
Appreciate
thanks
you
so
being
much
here.
for having me, man.
Absolutely. So, congratulations, Grammy Award for Love Bites.
It's still kind of sinking in. We don't have it yet. They, the ones that you get at the Grammys are just kind of props, and they have these cute little girls with polishing gloves that take it away from you. So, maybe that'll make it more real. But I'm still like flying high about it. I remember the feeling, and I'm all tingly about it.
I bet. Very exciting. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you so much.
And actually, you're also just off of the Revolver Golden Gods Awards as well. You guys were playing there. Your brother picked up an award.
Yeah, my brother picked up Best Drummer Award. I love that award ceremony because it's the only one that gives individual stuff out. And all of us, we're actually one of those bands that actually likes each other, and we all hang out. And all of us were pulling for my little brother because it's like finally he's the world is realizing what I kind of knew as his big sister all along. So I was the proud big sister that day. So.
Right, definitely. So you guys are from Pennsylvania originally, and you started very young. You started the band about 10 and 13.
Yeah,
right?
when I was 13 and my little brother was 10. My little brother has never actually sucked on drums, so which was why we were able to start so early. But and I was on keyboards at the time, and it's been quite the journey. I remember our first show ever outside of my parents' living room. We entered ourselves in a talent show, and we played one song, one original that we had written. It was called Love is Power. It was like this 5-minute epic song with a drum solo in the middle of it. We ended up winning 3rd place, but losing to the tap dancing cowgirl because she was much cuter than we were. But I remember, coming off that stage, it was kind of this big outdoor auditorium, just what a place to, to play your first real show. And technically it's a, talent show that's not real show, but, and I remember turning to my little brother and being like, do you want to do this again? This is so much fun. And I don't think my parents realized then that it was going to become our absolute obsession. In a very unhealthy obsession. Right. But when it did, my parents sat us down and were like, okay, you know what, go for it now, because you always have time later to get a real job or to be a waitress or to work an office job. So you might as well go for it now, and we did. So.
All right, that's great. That's great. So what drew you to the heavier side of music?
A lot of it was more of my dad's side. My parents were always huge rock fans, but my mom was more Beatles and Heart and Janis Joplin, Pat Benatar, and my dad was more anything with a color. So Black Sabbath, Blue Oyster Cult, Deep Purple, Pink Floyd. So the way that I kind of identified with a heavier side of music was that of Black Sabbath or the Scorpions or Van Halen, that type of thing. So I definitely have a soft spot for my parents' generation of music, and that definitely spurred a lot of stuff for me. As far as of my own generation, it was Metallica. A neighbor friend of mine introduced me to Metallica. He gave me the clean version, which I'm still mad at him about, because he didn't think, he was trying to be polite, but but yeah, that definitely opened up a whole new world for me, and went in search of 2 other members besides my brother and I that had the same work ethic and same drive that we did, and finally found it. And this is actually our 10th year as a foursome.
Congratulations!
So, yeah,
10th anniversary.
Yeah, so we're still together. We haven't killed each other yet, so
very
it's
nice,
good.
Very nice. So you mentioned Van Halen, which is the Van Halen brothers. You mentioned the Scorpions, which for a time anyway had the Schenker brothers. There's the Young Brothers and AC/DC. What is it about working with siblings in a band that leads to success?
I think that there's something about playing with blood, man. You don't break up the family, therefore you don't break up the band, and it becomes, and it can be, for some bands, it's definitely, maybe it's more difficult because you have to draw that line between, okay, well, is my brother or sister yelling at me because I'm the brother or sister, or I'm a family member, or are they yelling at me because it's the bandmate, something with the song? Which my brother and I work very hard, at both of our relationships, and we have been doing it for forever with each other, and 16 years since we've started playing with each other. And so we figured out our rhythm, and there are the occasional times where I think I mom him a little too much. I'm still the big sister, even though he's a grown man now. And that's the only time that he really gets perturbed at me. But yeah, I think that there's something about writing with your sibling as well, and playing live. I mean, there's certain times, and my brother's very unpredictable, but there are many times where we don't have to speak at all, and I know exactly where that hit's going to come, and you know, and the advantage for us, because we're one of those bands, we don't play to tracks, we don't play to click, no tapes, you know,
right.
so what you see is what you get, and the mistakes you hear are actually us making mistakes, but it's really helped us develop, you know, just listening to each other and helping each other, and then just the camaraderie. I think that brotherhood has bled through to the other members, and so therefore the other two might as well be adopted by now.
Right. It makes for a tighter unit.
Yeah.
Right. Nice. So we were talking earlier, and I'm fighting allergies and thus my voice, I apologize, but you were talking about grueling tour schedules, and performances and things. How do you keep, I mean, your performances are very intense. You're very energetic,
thanks.
You put a lot out on stage, you're screaming, you're singing. How do you keep yourself healthy? How do you keep your voice at its top form when you're pushing that hard?
I try not to be stupid, which is basically the bottom line, is a lot of common sense. But I mean, if it hurts, don't do it. That's number one rule. I drink a lot of water. Contrary to popular belief, I do not stay out till 4 a.m. every night. I actually do go to bed at a decent hour. I hardly drink anymore. You know, if I do throw down with the guys, I have to make sure that I have some time to, you know, have a day off or something to recover in the future. You know, it didn't used to be that way. There, you know, when I was a teenager, I thought of myself as being invincible, and you know, and I kind of was. You know, you could wake up after doing like 7 tequila shots and do a show and it'd be fine, or go into a smoky bar and do a 4-hour set, and you know, which we used to do back in the day, and you know, go in cold without a warm up and you'd be fine. And
right.
As things get more intense and you actually want to have this as your career, and there's politics involved and there's things you have to do, you have to wake up at 7 a.m. for a phone interview, or you know, go to an acoustic show or whatever, and you have to make sure that you're able to do your best at any given time now. So it's kind of a career choice for me to kind of slow down a little bit sure. with all of that. But yeah, I mean, it's I like it as well, though. I enjoy being busy, and I enjoy at least trying to be responsible for the most part. So.
Right. So you started on piano, correct?
Mm-hmm, I started on
What
piano.
drew you over to guitar?
The dark side.
The dark side, yeah.
Well, I made a decision. I started writing, you know, heavier songs, and you have to make the decision whether you want to be, you know, Tony Iommi, or do you want to be Elton John? Because in rock and roll, there's really only two places to
sure.
go, and so I chose the Black Sabbath route, and I don't. It was. I was always encouraged as a young kid to kind of reach beyond my comfort zone, and you know, my parents are crazy. You know, we used to call ourselves the Partridge Family meets Spinal Tap. It was a
nice.
You know, my parents' song is Panama by Van Halen, so if that gives you any indication of the household that I grew up in, they were very supportive, and so ended up getting, you know, first guitar at 16 and haven't looked back, really. This album that we just put out is the first time that I actually went back to some piano for some ballads and little things on this record. So it's kind of nice to be able to do both now.
Right, and I was reading about what led you back to doing those more intimate songs. Can you talk a little bit about what led you in that direction?
Of course. You know, for me it was I don't necessarily want to call it maturity, because I'm perpetually 14 inside, so that would be wrong. But you know, a lot of things, you know, happen, you know, and for me, I feel like at this time in my life, I'm starting to get my stuff together and working on myself, and a lot of things happen. You know, my parents got divorced. On the opposite end, I ended up meeting somebody. A lot of relationship ups and downs. Also, we have a tremendous relationship with our fans, mm-hmm. and to the point where, thankfully, because of social media, been able to keep up with a lot of people. And I started getting, and this started happening about, 2 years ago, trickling, but now it's I get at least 1 or 2 physical letters every day. They find out where we're playing and they send the letters to the show, or they hand it to our merch girl. And just it's so wonderful to be a part of somebody's life. Right. That's so incredibly inspiring, and it's not just flattering. It's just, it actually seeps its way into the songs, their stories, and what we talk about over Twitter, or I do an advice column for Hard Drive Radio, Ask Lzzy, and it's kind of a screwed up Dear Abby type of thing. And you find yourself such a part of their life, and their stories end up coming into your songs. So a lot of our songs ended up coming from that, and also how I relate my life to what they're going through. So.
Right. Well, it gives you a broader reach.
Oh, definitely.
It widens out the material on the album and things, so very nice, very nice. So we were talking about guitars earlier, and you have a new signature guitar from Gibson, which actually is hanging here on the wall.
Just so happens to be hanging on the wall.
I'm going to grab it here for you. Will you tell us about this guitar?
Sure. Well, this is my Gibson signature Lzzy Hale model. Right now, there's only one. And you can tell by the road rash on the back of it there that
it's been played.
it's been loved.
Yeah.
But Gibson approached me with this about 1.5 years ago, maybe 2 years, and I was absolutely floored that they wanted to do this with me. I've always been a Gibson girl. My first Gibson ever was a Les Paul Custom. That's because I was quite in love with Tom Kiefer from Cinderella, and I know he had one, so it was one of those things. But so always attracted to white guitars, and when they approached me with this idea, they're like, hey, take a couple weeks, maybe figure out what you want. I'm like, no, I have it right now, out of my back pocket here. And they were so excited to do this for me, even though I know white is one of the most difficult to make because it can get dirty. But yeah, I mean, solid mahogany body, and they ended up doing this, the gold hardware for me, and the gold frets, and everything is kind of standard except for the double bound body and the bound neck. Standard pickups, standard neck. I really wanted to keep it true to, the way that Gibson does it, because they if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Sure.
But it's great. It like I tell people a lot, it has this feeling of home to it and this chime to it that none of my other ones have. So it's definitely my go-to guitar.
Right.
And it's funny because everybody kind of comments on the fact that it's very much a traditional metal shape, but similar to the Gretsch or the Falcon and everything. It's got the classiness to it that I like. It
right,
had that little feminine flair. So. For a metal chick like me, it fits me perfectly. So
absolutely, the pearl inserts.
Yeah, the pearl inserts were actually a surprise by them. I did not request them, but when they took me to the factory and I opened it up, I'm like, oh my God, they're beautiful. I didn't even know that was an option, or I probably would have picked it anyway.
Right,
but it was a beautiful surprise by them.
Right. So it sounded like you were playing in a drop D tuning.
Yeah, I do both standard and drop D, depending on the riffs that my guitar player and I create. But I'm kind of a simple girl. Obviously, I am approaching guitar from 2 different angles, whereas my knowledge of music stems from the piano, but then my soul or whatever has always been in my vocals. So we kind of mash the guitar there in the middle.
Right.
And so anytime that I'm writing, I'm writing a solo or anything, I have to kind of sing it first. So we have you have to be able to be very melodic. I'm not entirely a shredder. That would be my guitar player, Joe, who kind of takes that over for me. But I'm very much influenced by a lot of Black Sabbath and a lot of 70s metal as far as riffage goes. So for me, it's always the simpler the better. The heaven and hell, na 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 na.
Sure.
It's great stuff. So you can always go back to that and learn something new from it.
Is that where you draw your vocals from as well, Dio and people like that?
Yeah, guilty there, but definitely. There's I don't know, there's something about it, and like I was telling you before, that's kind of how I identify myself in the heavy music world.
Sure.
I've always kind of had a dated interest in music.
Oh, it doesn't sound dated at all.
But it's awesome, and I still listen to that stuff to this day. Not exclusively. I definitely listen to just about everything from, you know, pop to heavy metal to a little bit of country now and then. If it's good, it's good, you know. But yeah, I always go back to the 70s, 80s hard rock and
That's
metal.
great stuff.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Lzzy, it's such a pleasure to have you here.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming in to visit us here on Guitars and Gear. We
Absolutely.
appreciate it.
Anytime.
I'm Mitch Gallagher. Thanks for joining me for Sweetwater's Guitars and Gear.